Now, we changed the car from silver to black in 2020. And as again, I said to them, like, the car's been silver forever. It's always been silver arrows. And I was like, imagine if we changed the car to black, what that could, us turning up and arriving is how you show up, and it's how, imagine the message we can send. And so we had the black car for the whole year, and we didn't even really talk much about it. We just let it be, and we won with it. And that's when I won my 7th world title with that car. So
that's beautiful. That must have felt special.
It was, honestly, my whole life flashed by that last lap in Turkey. My whole life, like all the struggles, questioning whether you were going to make it or not, just all those doubts, all those fears kind of flashed by me, through my eyes, and came across the line. And I was like, I did it. And I want the kids out there to know that you can do it too. So that's what I try, and like every day, just try to be encouraging of kids.
Yeah. Do you sometimes feel that, we were talking about this a bit earlier, that, in other sports, we get to see the emotions and the expressions of players that we love, or, anyone who's on the court or the field or the pitch. Whereas with you, because like we don't get to see that in your eyes in your last lap like that, we can only hear it today, which is why I'm so grateful to have this moment, because I obviously, whenever I'm sit down with someone who's a high performer like you, it's obvious that there's so much emotion and preparation and power, but with racing specifically, you just don't get to see that. Do you sometimes feel that the only people that can truly relate to you are the people you compete with? Because I feel like it's like you said, there's only 20 of you that are racing anyway. It's lonely anyway. 99% of people in the world have no idea what it feels like to drive a car as fast as you do in the way you do in any comparison. Do you sometimes feel that the only people you can relate to are the people that are racing against you? And then do you kind of feel, is there a loneliness in that experience, or is that kind of like a power in that as well?
Definitely the other drivers. I do feel that we have a lot more in common than we think, but we're so competitive, and a lot of us have our defense. Like, you want to beat the guy, but then you like the guy, you might like the person outside the car, but you can't show that. Like, there's this whole psychological battle you're having with yourself and getting away with yourself a lot of the time. So I really feel like as an older driver, I'm trying to be more like reaching out to youngsters, and because they're the future, and I'm excited to see some of these younger drivers that are coming through are so talented. I don't know if they've got the best structure around them. Like I didn't necessarily have the ultimate structure that I perhaps have now. So just try to be a kind of a positive light to them. But naturally, none of them are black, and none of them have necessarily faced the same as me, but they've faced their own challenges and things about respecting that within everybody. And I've tried to create allies necessarily, like in having the difficult conversations with some of them. I'm so grateful I've had a couple of them that really took the knee with me in 2020. Just on that, my dad was, going back to how my dad like never let me cry as a kid. He said there's a sign of weakness, like, don't let me ever see you shed a tear. So I remember just holding back through those difficult times as a kid, holding back most of that stuff. In 2020, I cried. I hadn't cried for at least 10 years, maybe more. There was a lot of bottled up stuff that came up that I had not realized, that I didn't even know about suppressing a pain or a feeling. So I remember kind of being on my knees thinking, what is happening in the world? I've got to be outspoken. I've got to take that chance, because if I don't do it, then no one's going to do it. If I don't take the knee, if I don't let people like me know that I care and I hear you and I'm with you and I'm going to do something about it, I'm going to risk it all. I don't care if my partners want to drop me because I don't want to be associated with this narrative. And I literally let go of all the fear, and that's why I came so forward with it. And I know it's not easy for everyone to do that. But I just want to really try to encourage people out there to be themselves, to speak out if they've got a problem, if they're seeing something within the working environment or experiencing something, you got to be outspoken about it. And there's a right way to do it. The first day I was going to take the knee, I remember I didn't feel like I could tell my team. I was like, because I felt that they wouldn't understand how important it is for me to do this day. So I remember I had my Black Lives Matter shirt hidden, and I just wore it out there, and I went ahead with it. And
So no one knew?
no one knew.
Wow.
But the sport had made all these T-shirts like "We Race as One" slogan, and they gave these T-shirts to everybody. I was like, I'm not wearing that. That's not what this is about. Yeah. And so this is what I'm doing.
And this was around George Floyd, right? The murder of George Floyd. Yeah.
And afterwards, my team were like, well, why didn't you, if you just told us, we could have prepared better. But I had this fear that they would try and stop me, perhaps. But that was just a fear. They've been massively supportive through the whole thing. My hope was that, you know, kids would be watching and be like, what is that? Why is he taking a knee? What does that shirt mean? What is going on, Dad, Mom? And then the parents be in an awkward position having to explain it maybe. But I think what was really encouraging for me, I think when we started really getting into the whole diversity and inclusion, we did the research. There was only 3% out of 2,000 people in the team. There's 3% diversity. So since then, we've been on this mission. The team have started new projects. We've discovered that the sport generally hires from one group of universities, which is not diverse. And if there are any young Black students that go there, they're twice as unlikely to be hired when they come out compared to their counterparts, and also paid less. So there's like all these things that perhaps people didn't know.
That's the Hamilton Commission, right?
Yeah,
that was the research,
yeah. And that just was interesting to experience that. And now we're working on like a diversity charter that all the teams have to be a part of. And it's not mine, it's for the sport. And it's to encourage those teams, because there's still not any diversity within, you know, if you look at Ferrari, they don't have hardly any. Most teams don't. But when I go back to my team, to the factory, normally in our marketing department wasn't very diverse initially. And I walked in after the pandemic and I started seeing such a more diverse group of people. I was really quite emotional because I was like, oh my God, I'm starting to see change. But you don't see that on TV.
Yeah.
So when I talk to the bosses of the sport, I'm like, hey, you know, there's all white men facing, and me facing the camera at the start of the race. Where are the women? Where are the people of color? We've got to be showing, so the young kids are watching and they're like, oh, there's a place for me there. I can be there. I can be an engineer. I can be a mechanic or whatever it may be. And even for young girls, I can be a racing driver or an engineer or a strategist or whatever, you know? So representation is so key to inspiring the young youth.
Especially in these industries that they already have less access to, right? Like that's the point, that it's not just representation because you want them to even have the opportunity. It's the fact that there's just no access point, which is what you're trying to create. I think what I find really beautiful about you doing it is you're doing it though when you're like, I'm having all my emotions come up at the same time as trying to be a voice for other people. And when you're saying like, I'm taking a knee because I know I have to make a stand externally, but internally you're taking a knee because so much of your own stuff from years ago is coming back up. Like that must be quite hard when that strikes me as something that's really inspiring about what you did, is that you were going through your own healing at the same time as trying to do healing for the world.
There is so much healing to do, right? And I was completely oblivious that I needed healing. I needed to really peel back some of those layers. I think for people that tune into racing, you mentioned earlier on, but when we arrive, everything's set up. There is work that we're doing in the background that naturally people don't see. They just see a show. But there is an unbelievable amount of work that goes on in the background. When I talk to people that talk about how much weight you lose in the car, they're like, yo, you just sit in the car and you drive. There's this huge psychological and emotional roller coaster that you're going through that it will be really hard for people to comprehend. And you mentioned about all these other athletes, you see their faces in other sports, you can't see because we've got a helmet on, but you go through this roller coaster ride in the race and then you get out and the camera's right in your face. You're not prepared for that. Your emotions are shot, particularly if you failed or feel like you failed. And you don't always answer the right way. If you wear your heart on your sleeve, people don't necessarily like that necessarily always. People take advantage of that. So then you build up all these protection mechanisms that's not necessarily you and at the core, but what would be the safest thing for you? You know what I mean? Like I read something the other day about there's like 3 steps of you, and there's one of which you present who you present. Then it's you and who you are to you and your family and friends. And then there's the part of you, the real you, that no one ever gets to see. And I think just today, in today's world, it's so vicious on social media. The media can be, can really tear you apart. And you build up, when you make a mistake in something you say in the media and you're ridiculed for it, you never do it again. So you build up and you go more and more in your shell, and you become harder for people to really relate to. But I think for me, what I've realized in these last few years is really peeling back those layers and, letting people know that I grew up in a council estate. I've lived on the sofa with my parents. We've had those struggles. The successful people out there you see, they too have had those things where we need to show the young kids who are going through that same thing that, if he can get there or they can get there, then it must be possible for me too.
Yeah.
And showing your vulnerability, that's something that I really struggled to do for a long time. And today, that's something I think I'm a lot more open than I've ever been.
Yeah.
I'm not living in fear every day. And that's the most empowering thing, I think, for me personally. I'm living a much happier life because I'm a lot more open.
Yeah. It's liberating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's liberating when you finally feel like you're not trapped or you're not being held or hiding.
My favorite quote is from Maya Angelou when she said, "We are all powerful beyond measure." And that really hit home also for me. That's my favorite quote and I have it tattooed, because really we do limit ourselves. We get in our own way, right? Along with the other things that get in our way. But a lot of our fear stops us from driving forwards, from progressing. And that's why I do the craziest things. I jump out of planes.
Yeah, you've done what, 80 jumps in your
life? I love challenging myself and doing things even though there's maybe fear there, but overcoming that fear is it's the best feeling when you overcome it and you realize that it was all just a bunch of nonsense in your head. I want to encourage. So all my friends, I'm like, "Hey, let's go and do this today." They're like, "Are you crazy?" My dad, I think as a kid, my dad was like, "Is he really my son?" Because I wouldn't do any of these things. And even still today, I still find that, and he's actually done skydiving with me, my dad actually. Yeah. He said he would never do it, but he did it. So.
But driving 200 miles per hour is probably one of the scariest things that you do all the time. That's not for you anymore.
No.
But as in,
I never had that fear.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was just never. I think if you go on a ski slope and you see these kids coming by, the kids are generally fearless, right?
Yeah.
But I think as you get older, you hurt yourself a little bit. You start protecting yourself more and more. But I just don't have that. I think I feel like that was something that just wasn't necessarily put in me. Yeah. I'm terrified of spiders.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. But when I'm doing 200 miles an hour, that's actually when I'm most at peace, I would say.
Yeah.
It's I'm flowing. It's that's my element. And that's why I love doing what I do. It's going to be really, really hard when I stop racing. I've been doing it for 30 years. I'm 37. I've been racing 30 years. And when you stop, what's going to match that? Nothing's going to ever probably match being in the stadium or being at the race and being at the pinnacle of the sport, being at the front of the grid or coming through the grid. That emotion that I get there, when I do stop, there'll be a big hole.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to generally focus on find things that are going to replace that are also going to be just as rewarding. And that's mission 44 for me. Meeting kids at schools, having these conversations with families and parents who clearly are going through difficult times and want to create the best opportunity for their kids, encouraging them that it's okay, I've been there too. Look where I got. So you can get there. It's just, you got to work through it. That's for me, that's way more rewarding than winning the race.
Yeah.
So much more.
Yeah. I'm so grateful and I'm so happy that everyone's getting to hear this. I felt you're the only, and I know, you're talking about when that happens, but it's brilliant that you're planning already because you can see how so many athletes mentally, when they know their career has somewhat of a shelf life or somewhat of a time span, it's so hard. It just completely, but I remember you're reminding me of when I had the fortune of sitting down with Kobe Bryant and I sat down with him when he'd already retired.
Wow.
When I interviewed him.
Oh, so great. I'm so jealous.
He was one of those people that was not upset being retired. He loved it because he knew that his mission for him was to make these short movies and make all these sports-based content to inspire kids to tell their stories and to help them find better stories. And so it's exactly what you're saying, where he's one of those people that I've met. He was not sad about, he was so